What's going on, everyone? Thanks so much for joining me today. This is video 3 in this series of Dryfire. So this video we're going to be covering weapons manipulation. So what do I mean by that? It's learning to handle your weapons in a safe and efficient manner while being consistent with it. So this is a good time to really learn what the different buttons and levers do for your firearm. So we all have the magazine releases for the handgun right there, here, here, and here. For the rifle, the magazine release is right there. We have the slide stop, slide lock, slide releases. Different manufacturers call it different things, but it's when you pull the slide to the rear, or when the slide is moved to the rear on an empty magazine, it locks the slide to the rear. So that's this lever, that's this lever, this lever, this lever, and that's this button right there for the AR, and that would be for the bolt. You have safeties for the AR. These other weapons don't have safeties, but really learning what the buttons do. Also learning how to handle your firearms. If people are holding the gun in a weird manner, I'd be trying to correct them and saying, hey, you know, hold it just in your primary hand. Learning how to manipulate the different levers while holding it in a manner where you could use it. Alright, so let's go over safety manipulation for the rifle and 1911 right there. So for the safety, both safeties, your thumb sits on top of that safety 99% of the time, and the only time it comes off is to re-engage the safety. So when I bring my gun up, I start seeing my sights about right there, safety goes off, and if I need to engage, I will pull the trigger. When the engagement's done, safety goes back on, my thumb just sits right back there as I lower my weapon, making sure that the finger goes off the trigger. So something like this. Come up, see my sights, pull the trigger. Alright, finger comes off, safety goes on, and I lower it. Come up, safety, off, trigger, finger off the trigger, weapon goes back on safe. So just really learning how to manipulate the safety. That's that for the AR. Next up is 1911. Same thing. Finger off the trigger. I keep my weapon, my finger on a reference point. Gun comes up, safety goes off, and I pull the trigger, or I simulate pulling the trigger. Finger comes off, re-engage the safety, weapon gets lowered. So come up, safety off, engage, pew pew. Finger comes off the trigger, safety goes back on. Goes back on top of the safety, and I lower the gun. Come up, trigger, finger comes off the trigger, safety goes back on, and I lower the gun. So I'm going to do an actual dry fire. Safety comes off, I'm going to pull the trigger, I'm going to reset my trigger, realign my sights, finger comes off the trigger, rack the slide, safety goes back on. I have to rack the slide and recock the hammer. Because when the hammer is lowered, I can't engage the safety. Same thing with the AR. Alright, let's go over decocking the weapon. I want to use this because it has a really good visual. So this is a double action firearm. Chamber, magazine will check, we're good. So how this gun works is, when I'm shooting live ammo, I pull the trigger, hammer drops on a live round, slide racks back, extracts and ejects the live round, and as the slide moves forward, it feeds a new one. Now the hammer's cocked to the rear, and I have a short, light trigger pull. Now when it's time to holster up, you need to mechanically decock the firearm, meaning using the safety. A lot of times in Hollywood and TV, you see people pull the trigger and lowering the hammer. And if you notice, there's a bar, a lever coming up. It's a firing pin block. So if I were to lose control of the hammer on a live round, that would actually enable a firing sequence. So that's a big no-no. So in order to decock the firearm before I holster up, I use my support thumb and decock the firearm. So with the hammer cocked back to the rear, before I holster up, I decock the firearm. So different firearms have different decockers. Different double action firearms have different decockers. So this is a slide mounted, this is a frame mounted, but the decocker is in the front. So I'm about to decock the firearm, or about to holster up. I need to decock the firearm, and then I lower the weapon. So this firearm right here, the decocker is right there. So right before I lower the gun and holster it, I decock the weapon and lower the weapon. So just some real basic stuff. I hope this helps. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.